Nyanta, you are a relative newcomer to our membership. In fact, a relative newcomer to EFT and optimal EFT, right?
Right.
Right. Okay. And so today, you went looking for specific events. You found a number of them, and they somehow, I'm going to have you tell the story, but they somehow, this is my term, collapsed like dominoes.
They kept coming up very fast, one after another. And what was interesting about that was they came very, very fast. And again, I think I don't know about the time period it took, because I lost sense and track of time. But it was like one after another. And then I would sort of remember, gosh, I've got to see, at what number is that event? What number does it feel like it's at? So I could barely get a number in, and it was just one after another. They were coming and collapsing, and it was just a flood of them, one after another, very distinct ones from the time I think I was probably maybe 4 all the way to 12. And they had a number of different people actually that were involved. And the only other thing I would say is it was like I was in this space.
Well, the way you worded it in your email to me, was it like it was just you and the unseen therapist?
Exactly. And that's why it's odd to sort of speak it, because it's easier to write it. And that was it. And here I am. And I'm in that space with the unseen therapist, and each one's coming, and it's just like at the super speed, just collapsing, and it's done. And then I can barely see it, or even touch it or feel it. And then I think when I was out of that, I went back to those, and they were so distant, and they were not only a 0, some of them I could barely touch.
Well, okay, one reason I wanted to record this and explore this with you is because this is an experience unlike what most people experience. Most of us, as you know, from studying our course and so on, take these specific events one by one, in a somewhat methodical way, and we can get rid of them typically, sometimes in moments, or in a round or 2 or 3, something like that, but pretty quickly and pretty cleanly if we do it well. Okay. Your experience was, rather than sit down and do them one by one, they just sort of showed up and just wrapped.
Just like this. Okay. Yeah. It was just,
now,
yeah.
In healing terms, in standard psychotherapy type terms, what you just did was, quote, impossible, because that doesn't happen. You've got to sit there with sessions and all kinds of stuff. Okay. So you've had at least what I would categorize as an impossible healing. Okay. Now, of course it happened, but in conventional terms, it just doesn't happen. Now, what I'd like to do, just as a test, if you don't mind, would be to have you take, you said they all went down to 0 and even below, or whatever you say. You tried to get them in.
Their distance, it's I can't quite touch some of them. I have to think really hard to, yeah.
But I'd like to do, if you would, just pick out one of the more intense ones. Can you identify it first? Can you do that?
I can go at, I think there's one I can bring up. Yeah.
All right. All right. Now, here's what I'd like to do to test how well that really got collapsed. Okay. And you're not being tested. We're just testing the system a little bit. You're new at this. Okay. So what I want to do is kind of get behind it, test it, see if it really collapsed, at least the way I would say it collapsed. the way I would define it. Okay.
Yeah, that particular one I can think of, but I'm trying to think of the others.
Well, let's just take the one.
Yeah.
Let's just take the one for now. Tell me what happened, and let me know if you get any intensity as you speak about it.
Okay, so I was 8, and to do many different things, had to move countries just 3 months before, and had to stay with my grandmother to go to a school. And that particular day, we were at a cousin's wedding. At the end of the day, we had to go back to my grandmother's. And my mother had to go to my other grandmother's, and I didn't want to go. So I cried and pulled away trying to go with my mother, knowing that I wasn't supposed to. And I knew very logically that I will have to go, and it was not going to make her feel better. But I still cried and pulled away, and there was my aunt and cousin trying to pull me away. And, yeah, and there I was. I went. And so that happened when I was 8. Yeah.
Okay, now you said that without I didn't hear any emotional intensity at all.
I don't feel really emotional.
Okay. Well, okay. So
it's just like I'm watching it, and no, I don't feel myself like yesterday. I would have felt myself tugging, and I was crying, and I was distraught and upset, and I remembered it all these years.
Can you estimate how many such events collapsed?
More than 10 at least, and it helps me understand my mother, my grandmother, my father, these uncles and aunts, and it's like whatever I carried with it, it's sort of poof.
All right, now, thank you for that. I didn't realize that was part of it, because you said it helps me to understand these people that we grow up with, etc., that we end up having some resentments for and some anger with, and all this stuff. So you ended up with an understanding about them as a result of this.
Yeah.
Now, that doesn't...
different place, and, yeah.
When you say an understanding, I'm going to presume, but you correct me, it's a more gentle type understanding. It's a more loving understanding. I understand where they're coming from. I see what I didn't see then.
It's exactly, I would have said that my paternal grandmother was not very loving, and there was one of the events was that, but, she might have just done what she did out of total curiosity.
Well, that's true.
It was mine to read or misread or feel or whatever. But,
go ahead.
And that's it. And yeah, it's, if I held something, I don't hold it now. So that's what it is.
Okay. Well, all right. And oftentimes when we have collapsed some specific events, we do get better understanding because the sting is taken out of this event once upon a time, but you just got it in rapid fire fashion. So, that's fascinating. Nyanta, I thank you so much for your input.